How to manifest your dream life in only 8 steps. So, I almost made the cardinal sin of all. I almost made one of the biggest mistakes a few weeks ago. One day I was speaking to my wife and I was talking to her about some of the goals that I wanted to accomplish. And I remember as I was speaking to her, I used a word that none of us should ever use. It was the word when. I was talking to my wife and I said, when I become successful, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And I had to stop and ask myself, wait. Like, as it states right now, I am successful. And I say that because for a lot of us, even you listening, you may feel as though you're not successful yet and that you will have success when you accomplish something. And that is some of the biggest cardinal sins, some of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make. They believe that when they achieve something, they will then become successful, when there's a good chance what you have currently in your life is things that you once wished for. A really good business that's going really well. I do well for myself, and it's not a brag or anything like that, but to be a therapist running their own practice in 2024 is something that not a lot of people are doing right now. A lot of therapists right now, they're doing this part-time, and also they're working in agencies and things like that. But for me, I'm able to basically run my own business and take time off when I want. And then even outside of work, I have a beautiful son, beautiful wife, beautiful house. Like, I have a lot of things in my life that I can be grateful for. But if we're not careful, we will use the word when. We will believe that we are not successful at this current state. And that is totally not the case. So as we go over these 8 steps, I just wanted to point this out. As it states right now, there may be a chance that you are successful. And this podcast is just to help you to get the bonuses in your life, okay? Now, if you currently feel like you're not successful, I will say that this podcast will get you to where you want to be. All you have to do is trust the steps that I'm going to give you, follow them, and you will find your life change. You will find the transformations that you're looking for. I promise you, these are the steps that I've used personally, and I've seen a lot of my clients day in and day out use these things. And here's the thing. The last step that I'm going to give you is an absolute game changer. So make sure you stay for that step. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to point number 1. All right, so the first step in being able to manifest your dream life, and also make sure you subscribe to this channel, because here's the thing, guys. When you take action, you will be rewarded with the rewards and the consequences that come with it. And when I say consequences, I mean the good consequences, okay? So whenever you take one action forward, the universe will give you something in return. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Now, with that being said, point number 1, how to manifest the dream life that you want. Believe it or not, it's a simple one, but you have to identify what it is that you want. Now, the way that you identify shouldn't be things like, a fancy car, a nice house, or whatever the case it may be. Those are bonuses. Those are the things that come with the things that you value. Because here's the thing, success is not rooted in any of the materialistic things that we have, because those things can come and they can go. And also those things provide what we call a temporary dopamine hit. So kind of like a temporary high, something very similar to when you're doing drugs, unfortunately, like cocaine, heroin, or drinking alcohol, or even sex, to be honest, sex, porn, and things like that. But what you want to look for is long-lasting pleasures, and the way you find these things is actually by identifying your values. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast and you've been a loyal listener, almost every episode I do, I always talk about your values, and it's because it is a cornerstone for the life that you want. If you do not take time to identify your values, you will not find the motivation or the reason why to do hard things, to go through tough times. And that is something that is integral. It is very important when you're trying to build a life that you want. Your values, these are the things that help increase your baseline when it comes to your happiness. Those dopamine hits that I mentioned, these things, if you will, this occurrence can be attributed to something called hedonic adaptation, okay? Hedonic adaptation, sometimes it's called hedonic treadmill, but basically what it states is that when we get something new, right? So it could be a new job, new relationship, or a new car, a new pair of shoes. When we get something new, we feel really, really excited. And for maybe an hour, a day, a month, we do find ourselves feeling amazing. But once that high is gone, we come crashing down back to where our original baseline was. So if you're someone that's buying things to try to get long-lasting pleasure, trust me when I say you're going to be heartbroken when you find yourself crashing back down to your baseline. The only way to increase that baseline is by doing things that you ultimately value. And these are things that go way beyond the materialistic things. So step number 1, guys, you have to identify what it is that you want. And again, you have to go deep. go beyond the materialistic things and really search deep in your soul and ask, like, what is it that I truly, truly want out of this life? All right, point number 2, and I love this one. This is a great one, and I love telling this from a story. It was actually a case study that was done. So at the University of Chicago, all right, there was a study done by some of the professors there, and what they wanted to do was to see if someone's free throw shooting could improve by simply visualizing themselves taking free throw shots, okay? So there's 3 groups that they tested. They had group A, which was the physical group. So what the physical group did was they came into the gym, they took free throws, right? So just to get a baseline. And once they figured out what their average was, they told them to go home for the next 30 days and to physically go and practice shooting free throws. So they did that, and then they came back in 30 days. Group B was the mindfulness group. So they came in and they initially shot their free throws so that they can get a baseline. And they were told for the next 30 days, you need to visualize yourself taking free throws. Visualize yourself. Don't go to the gym. Don't pick up a basketball. Just visualize yourself, and then come back in 30 days. And then group C was the no action group. What they did was they came in, got a baseline just like the other 2 groups. And once they got that baseline, they told them, hey, for the next 30 days, don't do anything. Just go back to your regular way of living and then come back. And in 30 days, those 3 groups came back. And group A, the physical group that went to the court and practiced, they improved by 24%. Their free throw shooting improved by 24%. Group C, the no action group, their free throw shooting improved by 0%. But what was interesting was group B, the mindfulness group. Their free throw percentage actually increased by 23%. So just 1% less than the physical group. And what this says is that when you visualize yourself taking actions, it actually helps. It actually helps to build those skills that you need, those skills that you're looking to have. And that's what I want you guys to do in this second step. Once you identify what it is that you want, I need you to start to visualize yourself going out there and taking these actions. Now, you could go out there and take physical actions, but here's the thing. For some of us, it's easier to first get the visual of us doing the thing, right? It feels a little safer, and that's okay. It feels a little safer, it's a little comfortable, and also just easier to access, right? Like literally right now, you can stop and just start visualizing yourself getting in front of a stage and just start speaking to people. Or you can visualize yourself actually, let's say, making a successful sale. There's so many things you can do right now by just visualizing. So step number 2 to manifest the dream life you want, visualize it, guys. Don't be afraid to take 5 minutes, even 3 minutes, and just close your eyes and visualize yourself taking these actions that you know you should be taking. All right, main point number 3, you guys are gonna hate me for this one, but you will love me once you do it. But point number 3 to building the life that you want is that you have to commit by making a sacrifice. You know, there's a saying, once you have skin in the game, you're more involved, you're more likely to stick things through. It also goes to something called the cost sunk bias, which is or cost sunk fallacy. It's one of those, I'm sorry. But basically what that states is that no matter if what you are doing is working or not, you're more likely to stick to that method just simply because you've invested so much time and effort into this method. And this is the importance of making sacrifices. Now, when you have a goal that you set for yourself, a sacrifice needs to be made to ensure that you stick to it through the long haul. Now, the sacrifice can come in so many different areas. So the sacrifice, one that I used to be afraid of making, was a financial sacrifice. So sometimes this is you paying for a coach, a course, a membership, a coaching program, like so many different things, right? Even going to conferences, which was a big one for me, right? Even starting off small, if you can't afford those things, start off small by actually buying books. There's so many things out there that can help educate you so you can become the person that you need to be to accomplish these goals. But you got to get a little skin in the game. You got to be willing to lose in order to win. Now, the second way that you can make a sacrifice is just simply with time. Guys, the more time you put into something, the less likely you are to give up on it, because again, you feel like all the time and effort you put into this action, this goal, will be wasted the second you decide to give up on it. I've told one client this, and he agreed with me, to be honest. But I tell a lot of my clients, like, hey, if you haven't been doing this thing, whatever the skill is, for at least a year, then you really don't have space or room to talk about why, or to talk about quitting, if you will. Like, to be able to invest a full year into learning how to do public speaking, or how to close sales, or let's say how to do stock market trading, or anything like that, like, to put in a year, it's only just the cusp. You're barely really breaking the ice. You know, there's people that's been doing those things and so many other skill sets. They've been doing it for decades, guys. And you're expecting to have the same success as someone that has put 10 years, 20 years into, let's say, learning how to close sales. You're expecting to have that type of success after year 1, or dare I even say after year 3. You know, the amount of time you put into something is really the separator. And I need you guys to get real focused and real committed in making these sacrifices. And another sacrifice that you can make is just simply energy. You know, everyone has 24 hours in a day. And for most people, you have a 9 to 5 or you have a business. So there's 8 hours, 10 hours right there that's gone. But what about the rest of your time? How are you using it to actually build the life that you want? Okay, so literally your energy. Okay, so time, energy, and money is great ways to make sacrifices for the goals that you want. All right, step number 4. And again, if you made it this far, guys, it says that you really enjoy this podcast, which means that you should subscribe to it just so that you can get more information like this. Because in these podcast episodes, I give you guys tips that I normally only give in therapy. And in therapy, clients are paying me a lot of money for these sessions. So you're getting these tips absolutely free. And to ensure that you get more tips like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. So tip number 4, and I'm gonna do a podcast on this one later, you have to fail quickly. It's like, oh, coach, what you mean by that? Like, and I'm supposed to be successful, or why do I have to fail in order to be successful? And guys, the reason why it's because failure is one of the most data-rich events that can happen to us, okay? There's so much data that comes with failing that it actually helps us almost even more than winning. You know, failure is something that everyone experiences. And the thing is that it's not the failure that we should be afraid of, but it's the fear of failing. I can even change that and say it's the fear of selling, the fear of speaking. So it's not speaking, it's not selling, right? It's none of those things. It's not failing, but it's the fear that we should be fearing. You know, the thing about fear is that we all feel it, myself included, but how we respond to that fear is just so important. Because here's the thing, guys, that emotion is just so common. And the more you believe that that emotion is uncommon, the more it actually will terrify you. Some people, they look at fear as if it's the boogeyman, and that is not the case. Fear is just like any other emotion, like happiness, confidence, love, sadness, any of those things. This emotion, it unfortunately just feels a little uncomfortable. But fear has never, dare I even say, harmed someone directly. It's normally what a person does once that fear is present that determines if they're harmed or not. So guys, in this step, I'm giving you absolute permission to actually go and fail quickly. And when I say that, I do mean it. I need you to fail multiple times. And as you're failing, I need you to learn about these failures. And this is going to take me into step number 5. So step number 5, to manifest the life that you want, you have to study your failures. I remember back in school, I used to get tests back, and in college, I wasn't the best in math. In high school, I was good, but in college, I failed it and had to retake the class, and that cost thousands of dollars. But in college, when I failed a math test, I used to just throw it away. It's like, man, I don't want to see this, right? Like, who wants to look at a paper with a 50 or a 40 on it, right? So I just balled it up and threw it away. But what I should have did was I should have took that same test and took it to a tutor and asked them to show me, how did I get these wrong and how do I get these right? Like, what did I do that was wrong in solving this problem and how do I correct it? And that was something I did the following year in my math class, and it was Math 150. I never forget it. And I kid you not, guys. The first year I took that math class, I got a D. The second year I took that math class, I got a B+, right? Big difference. And it's because I studied the failures the second time around. And I don't want you guys to go through the first failure and miss out on that opportunity. So the first time around, make sure you're studying those failures. But to study your failures, guess what you have to do? You have to fail, okay? So again, I'm giving you absolute permission to go out there and fail quickly. All right, step number 6. So we done studied the failures, right? So we failed, we studied the failures. Now it's like, what's next, right? What do we do next now that we've known what we failed at? Well, it's simple, guys. And I take this from James Clear, Atomic Habits, and I love this part. But he talks about implementation intention, meaning you need to start saying when and where in what it is that you're going to do when it comes to a goal or an action that you're going to take. So many people, they leave these things so broad, so vague, that actually robs them of any intentionality of actually completing the task that they need to complete. So for me, for example, I'm sitting at this desk, I'm recording this podcast, and I do it every Saturday, typically when my son is sleeping, right? And I know that during this time is game time. There's nothing else I should be doing other than sitting in front of this camera and doing this podcast. And it makes sense because my whole life, my whole week, it runs on a schedule. And because this time is set aside for this activity, it's very hard for me to miss it. All right, very hard, very hard. So for you, once you've implemented, or you realize the failures that you made and why, I now need you to practice implementation intention. So again, that's you saying what you're gonna do, when you're gonna do it, and essentially the time that you're gonna do it. When you have those three things put in place, vagueness will not get in your way. So make a schedule, guys. Be very, very intentional, and it'll help you to start taking those new actions to help you to overcome those failures that you just went through. All right, step number 7, and I gotta admit, I love this one. I love this one because I actually realized it later on in my therapy journey. Okay, so this was something that I really didn't understand at the beginning when I was talking to clients about confidence and honestly any other feeling. I really didn't understand this, but later on I realized that there was a big difference, and this is going to take me into step number 7. So there's a big difference between being and feeling. Okay, so step number 7 is focus on being instead of feeling. A lot of times my clients come to me, and I'll even say this, right now, there may be a chance that you may be focused on feeling confident, when rather, or instead, you should be focused on being confident. And it's like, yo, those sound the same, doesn't it? No, they're totally different. Feeling confident is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that you feel within your heart. You feel confident, you feel happy, you feel inspired. You feel these things, and you know it without a doubt. But those feelings, they come and go. They're not always going to be there. And the people that rely on feelings, these are the people that typically procrastinate or they get stuck really easily because those feelings are not guaranteed. But something that is guaranteed is being confident. And it's like, what does being confident mean? Well, being is a way of acting. It's an action. It's a behavior. It's something that you do. You can do confidence when you're not feeling confident. So what does that look like? That looks like you getting on a stage, shaking, right? Nervous, right? Voice breaking, voice crackling, and still giving a speech on why people should actually buy your company or invest in your company or buy some of your products, right? Like that's being confident, right? Another example is not being confident in terms of like not feeling confident. And let's say some adventure that you're gonna go on. It could be a vacation, it could be a new date, it could be a new part of the city, it could be a job interview, right? It could be so many things. Like you may not feel confident, but the moment you decide to take that first step, right? And the moment you decide, yes, I'm going on that date, I'm going to that new city, I'm going for that interview. The moment you decide you're gonna do that, it's you deciding that you're gonna be confident long enough so that you start to feel confident. And I tell people the best thing about this is that even if you don't feel confident, guess what? You still got the reward at the end of the day. So if you got on stage and you're nervous, you're shaking in your boots, as we say, and you got 10 sales for something that may cost $1,000, well, guess what? You just made $10,000. I would take that over feeling confident, right? If I nervously got $10,000, I'd be excited, right? Wouldn't you? So being is more important than feeling. All right, step number 8, and I'm glad you made it this far. And like I promised you guys, step number 8 in manifesting the dream life that you want is so important. It's by far probably the most important step of them all. But step number 8 is to tie your dreams to someone else's benefit. Now, the reason why we do this is because, guys, you know, it's great to make a lot of money, to have the cars, the houses, and all that other stuff. But have you ever noticed that people that are really successful, so let's take like Jeff Bezos, or even his ex-wife, right, who got a huge share of Amazon once they divorced, like people like Jeff Bezos and all these other guys that are super successful, one thing that they're big on is philanthropy, giving away donations, charity. And the reason why is because they have everything that you would want. They have it all. And right now at that stage, the only thing that gives them happiness or fulfillment is seeing other people happy, other people fulfilled. So I would ask you, how does accomplishing these goals that you've just set for yourself help to serve someone outside of you? Does it serve a brother of yours, a son of yours, a daughter, a parent? Maybe it serves inspiring some people in your friend group, or even just people on social media that follows you. Inspiring people is such a great feeling, and it actually helps to increase your motivation because you feel like other people are depending on you, and honestly, they're getting a lot of value from you. The benefit of doing things outside of you, it really does push you to go beyond your limits. And this sometimes comes from us not wanting to disappoint or let other people down. So use this to your benefit and ask yourself, how does my current goals honestly help other people? That right there is the bow that will tie all your actions together. It ties all these other 7 steps together and ensures that you follow through with them. So real quick, I'm gonna go over the 8 steps that help you to manifest your dream life. So step number 1, identify what you want. Step number 2, visualize it. Step number 3, commit by making a sacrifice. Step number 4, fail quickly, guys. Please promise me you're gonna do that, okay? Fail quickly. Step number 5, study your failures. Step number 6, implementation intention. Step number 7, focus on being instead of feeling, okay? That's a big difference there. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing. And then step number 8, tie your dreams to someone else's benefit. So guys, this is Coach Wells. I'm a licensed therapist, and thank you for checking out this podcast episode, and I'll see you later.